Hello Canada, welcome back to another edition of the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, alias Tagai. Well, another day in Canada, lots of news going around. We're going to start things off with just a couple smaller things. First, I want to just do a major debunk. I showed yesterday how in Palestine, or Gaza, there was a warehouse that Hamas was hoarding food in. And the people found out where it was, and they broke in. And now, because of social media and subscribers like you sharing and getting the word out, they've had to kind of quash it. So they've jumped on it, and they're spreading some pretty serious misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, bullcrap. We're going to straighten that out right off the hop. Then we're going to dabble into Ontario is going to have to change a little bit of their Bill 5, C5, the state of emergency in BC, and no, it's not forest fires. And then we're going to dabble into the Saskatchewan separation agenda. We've got the APP joined the Freedom Calendar Net, and they're doing a bunch of town halls, and they've been kind of getting shut down. I'm going to show you a clip from that, and then I'm also going to share they're doing the same thing that the APP is doing. So they're having they have a page where you can join up and sign your name, and it's a guaranteed intent that you will sign when a referendum comes. Now, this is what I was saying on an earlier show that like Corey Morgan and them were talking about. We don't have time to deal with the parties and all the rest of this crap. Let's just get our numbers up there. Know that we have the right amount of people so we don't fail. And then we can go through with it. And once we actually have the referendum done and passed, the parties can do whatever they want. They can do what they do. Everybody's looking for power. I don't want power. I want independence. And I'm sure you fellow Saskatchewanites do as well. So we're going to dabble on that. And we got some breaking news as well, how Brookfield actually reached out personally to Carney. Now, these are the little things that the Conservatives wanted to change. They wanted to put way steeper ethic violation charges in. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. This is kind of a bombshell. I'm hoping that more kind of gets opened up on this. Very interesting, very corrupt. And it just goes to show he hid his money. Canada's doomed. Elbows up, Eastern Canada. Can't wait to get out of this corrupt nation. And then we got a few other things. We got CTV finally did some footage on the protests. There were a few people that got busted charging cops, these Hamas protesters. And then we're gonna catch up with this BC Ostrich story. It's exploded. It's gone global. It's especially huge in the States right now, with everything that they've been finding out about the whole Wuhan thing and the jabs and all the rest. People were taken for a ride, and now that the evidence is starting to come out, that's also pushing this roll over to this whole avian flu thing. So we're going to dabble on that as well. Let's just get started here. Let's just debunk CTV. CBC, they're all doing it. I'm just going to use a CTV clip just because it was there. The way they worded it, it was perfect. Let's just take a listen to this again. Verbal diarrhea.
Sandy, the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry says one person was killed and dozens were injured when crowds overwhelmed an aid distribution site, blaming Israeli gunfire. Israel says soldiers only fired warning shots outside the compound.
Thousands of Palestinians desperate for food descend on this new aid site in Rafah.
This man says he has a 10-member family but could only get 1 can of peas. While at a different site, the Associated Press reports 4 people were killed when hundreds stormed this UN food warehouse, pulling off pieces of the building in an attempt to get inside. The UN accuses Israel of weaponizing aid. Israel says it's the UN that failed to pick up 400...
Okay. Now, do you see this footage? This is right on the beach. Right on the beach.
Aid trucks ready to go in Gaza.
The UN must stop spreading panic and start moving aid. Put your ego aside, pick up the aid, and do your job.
Meanwhile, the Israeli Prime Minister said Mohammed Sinwar, Hamas's de facto leader in Gaza and brother of the former leader and October 7th mastermind, has been killed.
But I saw so many kids with burn wounds.
Now, they're saying that the UN has got warehouses of food in Gaza, but I thought they couldn't get food in. I thought the people were starving. Now, just sit back and think logically about... So what they're doing is they're combining 2 completely separate stories in order to tear away at the footage that's coming out, like some of it that I showed you on yesterday's episode, or this morning's episode. Now, sorry, last night's episode, my bad. So, the one on the beach was where the NGOs, they had outside, the Americans helped get the food with the Israelis. They used a third party with third-party military, and Israel watched from above. And the people, they just ransacked it. And now, yeah, the people are starving. There's no doubt about this. There's no doubt about this. They need help. Then they used that footage to kind of combine how the shots were fired, but then bled into the story about now the UN's got food warehouses full of food in Gaza, but the people are starving. I'm sorry, just before all of this footage was released, this is what they were saying.
An UNRWA warehouse in Amman, Jordan, and everything around me is aid supplies that is supposed to be in the Gaza Strip weeks, if not months ago. And meanwhile, every warehouse we have now...
Now, look at the warehouses that the UN uses as well. They're like cement. They're done that way so that they keep the food cool. They're not done in rickety tin warehouses. They're vented with the roofs. You can see the open venting along the top of the roofs. Now they're even showing you. That's the food that they can't get in. It's all in Jordan. The warehouses in Gaza are empty. No food in there.
Now in the Gaza Strip is empty.
These are food parcels made to support families. All of these boxes here are hygiene kits, toothpaste, soap, baby wipes, sanitary items, medical supplies.
Everything that people have been denied for the last 19 months, including the last 11 weeks of total Israeli siege of the Gaza Strip. We don't know when these supplies will be allowed by the Israeli authorities into Gaza. In the last few days, they have just started to allow very, very few supplies of aid back into the Gaza Strip. But the United Nations is calling for a meaningful amount of aid. I think it's safe to say that the amount that's gone in so far is completely meaningless. This aid crisis...
Okay. That's right from the horse's mouth. And now, back to the actual footage. This is the actual footage. This isn't their little wee clip blended over with the people running just outside of this. Now, these 2 areas are completely different. They're like 40 kilometers apart. This was a Hamas storage facility. They were hiding food. The media is purposely lying to you. I'll even scroll up and show you this post in its entirety so you can see it. Kevin Wong. I look forward to the condemnation from the pro-Palestinian protesters who will, I'm sure, speak out forcibly against Hamas terrorists for stealing food aid destined for Palestinians, hoarding the stolen food and flour from Palestinians, and eliminating Palestinians. It was Hamas that opened fire. I fact-checked this through at least 5 or 10 different, because I shouldn't say this one in particular, but this one as well as a bunch of other ones that I chose not to use because they were pretty explicit. So I'm seeing the evidence firsthand, and I'm seeing that it is not Israeli soldiers that I'm seeing unleashing all hell on these people. I showed a clip on the other episode, and I got nailed pretty bad, so I can't show that clip again. But that clip, if you go back to previous episodes, you will see, is the one that they're trying to blur over with the footage from where the trucks were down by the actual sea. It was right on the beach. This isn't there. This is lies. This is what most people who actually know real Palestinians and have seen the suffering, this is what they see and what they know. This is why I created the channel. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Mainstream's lying to you. And it wasn't one person. There's 5 guaranteed, confirmed, not coming back people. They're saying 14 injured. And this is, I mean, I've only seen, and I say 5 because I saw the 5, and I know that they're done in some of the videos that I can't post. Now, moving on. This is a bit of a bombshell. And it shouldn't be surprising, except for the people who voted Liberal because they don't actually know anything about politics or the real world. Obviously, they're either too busy living their life and they don't care, or they live in the propaganda bubble and they don't care. But this is pretty huge. So Brookfield firm seeks help from Carney days after he takes office. Calgary-based firm controlled by Brookfield wants Carney to consider it in investment decisions. Now remember, he hasn't shown, he hid his money way before. He did it right away and locked it up. So, no, I'm done. It's a blind trust. You don't need to know. You don't need to know. You don't need to know. This man is a crook. What's going on here? So, what the hell? I'm signed in, I'm paid up, and now they're booting me out. This is... Okay, well that sucks. I'm paid up and everything, but for some reason it must be a lot of people clicking on this site. It must have took off. That's okay though. I found another one here. I'm good to go. So it's just 2 days after the Liberals won the federal election, executives from companies linked to the new Prime Minister's former employee Brookfield Asset Management began asking for his help. On April 30th, 2 oil and gas companies owned by Brookfield joined 36 others in signing an open letter to Prime Minister Mark Carney. The group urged him to speed up resource development by easing regulations and fast-tracking approvals. For Brandon Anderson, the CEO of Brookfield-controlled natural gas company North River Midstream, it was a first, according to federal records. In more than 14 years of overseeing and contributing to lobbying efforts, he had never before contacted a prime minister directly. In the lobbying register, Calgary-based North River later described its outreach to Carney as asking the government to consider North River in their investment decisions. A company spokesperson told the IGF that in an open letter was North River's only communication to the Prime Minister. Before the election, Anderson's appeal might not have reached Carney if he had sent it through Brookfield's channels. Until January, Carney had been far removed from Anderson, sitting at the top of an organization that says it's managed $1 trillion in assets and which owns North River through its company, Brookfield Infrastructure Partners, but anyone can write to the Prime Minister. Except according to experts in the Conflict of Interest Act, a Brookfield company. Andrew Stark, a political science professor at the University of Toronto, explained that communications like the April 30th letter would typically be blocked by a conflict of interest screen, a safeguard designed to ensure Carney is not involved in decisions affecting the company he once chaired. Brookfield's gains and losses in North River and its dozens of other subsidiaries and properties were ultimately Carney's responsibility until he left in January, and it's likely Brookfield funds remain in his financial portfolio, which is now a blind trust. Now, I'm having issues with all of this. It almost sounds like a puff piece. Because first they're saying that he hasn't had contact with this person for a long time. And then they're saying that, well, Carney was literally there in January. These were part of his responsibilities. So you got to read between the lines. Like I said, I've studied propaganda, and these are the little things that the little sirens in the back of the head go off. The ears start to ring. Call it the spidey sense, or call it your intuition, or after a while of training, you pick up on these things. Something's not right with this. Something's not right with the article. It almost sounds like it's written to almost promote that he's going to do oil and gas. I don't know. But the fact that they are linking him to Brookfield is believable because he's already done that lots, and look at the housing plan he's got. That's all going to be done. Well, look at his heat pumps, right? Same thing. Those are Brookfield heat pumps. He's the one who told Trudeau, told Britain that you guys should do this, and here's the companies you should choose, and it just so happened they were his heat pumps. Previous episodes, I blew the lid off this months and months and months ago. So the Prime Minister's office did not respond to the IGF's question about whether Carney received a letter. A spokesperson said the screens will ensure the Prime Minister is not made aware of any official matters or decision-making processes involving Brookfield. A spokesperson for Brookfield said that its portfolio companies at times participate in industry-wide communications, and all lobbying activity is carried out in accordance with the applicable rules in Canada. Now, this is all... There's a whole lot of verbal diarrhea in here. Now, this one here, you don't have to pay for. I'm going to share it. You'll be able to read through the entire article. Carney pledged to make Canada the world's leading energy superpower during an April campaign event in Calgary. This involves both conventional and clean energy sources, he said, mirroring Brookfield's energy portfolio. This is why the Conflict of Interest Act must be modernized, says Stedman. And absolutely, they're going to get him. He'll get a $500 fine. Oh, wait, so you're going to fine me $500 and I'm going to make $5 million. Okay, no problem. Let's just do this over and over. This is redundant. This is why Poilievre wanted to change these. He wanted to stop this from happening. He wanted it to be huge fines and possibly jail time, or forcing the politician to step down, because it's not, the conflict of interest is so huge. It goes against the actual idea of your job. You're not there to make yourself money or your friends money. You're there to save taxpayers money. For some reason, the government likes making other people money. They love doling out your taxpayer dollars. Like I said, I'll clip this. Like I do, all my stuff's in the description. So, moving on ahead. This is Ontario is going to have to amend that Bill 5 because they've had a pile of pressure.
After receiving a lot of criticism, the Ontario government says it's making changes to its controversial Bill 5. As Julie Sharp tells us, the changes involve consulting with Indigenous communities.
We are all working with the same intention, but we have understand the need to strengthen the bill.
If the government wanted to do this right, they would consult before they introduce the law, not after.
Today, Doug Ford's government said it will be making changes to Bill 5 following the pushback from Indigenous communities. The amendment would include an explicit duty to consult throughout this process. Indigenous Affairs Minister Greg Rickford says the changes will help First Nations communities.
We believe if we work in full partnership with First Nations communities to build out the critical infrastructure that is the face of developing critical minerals and mining sites.
Bill 5 looks to speed up mining projects like the one in Northern Ontario's Ring of Fire by creating special economic zones where it can suspend provincial and municipal laws. It will also be adding in special Indigenous economic zones at the request of Indigenous communities for projects they want to fast track. In an Instagram post before today's announcement, Six Nations of the Grand River says the bill should be paused until the government consults with them. NDP MPP Saul Mimokwa says making changes to the bill in the 11th hour is not reconciliation, but rather an insult.
It's a slap in the face when you try to do last-minute changes to appease the First Nations.
Premier Doug Ford says Bill 5 is needed now more than ever.
The reason we're doing this, we're in an economic war against President Trump. One of the areas that are going to support our province and our entire country is our critical minerals.
However, opposition NDP leader Merit Stiles shot back, saying the proposed laws should be scrapped entirely.
This isn't about mining.
Now,
it's not about...
Again, this whole Trump, this is such bull crap. Okay, fine. Let's just say, now you got it, you're in there, you're getting your critical minerals. Where are they going? You're going to process all of them here? Sorry, we're not set up for that. Where are they going? Well, they're going to go to the States. They're using Trump as an excuse. It's bullcrap. Yes, I do believe that we got to get in there and we got to be able to get some mining done, without a doubt. There's no doubt about that. But enough of this Trump. Trump. What you're paying in tariffs isn't Trump. I say this over and over and over again. I keep putting the proof in the description. Enough. These are power grabs. That's what these are. And they will go to his buddies' companies, the people that help him win votes and seats. It's all crap. This guy's just a liberal. It's just, he's so embarrassing. Anyways, moving on. BC City is pondering putting a state of emergency in place to improve downtown safety. Where was all of this before the election? Because it's these soft on crime laws that are the reason most of this is going on.
It is far more contentious than a wildfire. Williams Lake in the province's interior says crime and street disorder in the downtown area are out of control. In a moment, I'll talk to the city's mayor, but let's begin with the CBC's Marcella Bernardo, who's in the city of Kamloops. And Marcella, what's the city hoping that this declaration of a state of emergency would allow it to do?
Well, essentially, there's been a lot of discord in the community because of the repeat offenders that keep getting shown the door and released. So there have been a series of fires in downtown Williams Lake in recent days. There's been a number of overdose deaths and overdose calls.
Repeat offenders getting out the revolving door. Now that the election's over, we can all talk about this again. This is something that's happening. But during the election, oh, it's all new liberals. It's a whole new party. Elbows up. Unbelievable.
So this kind of came to a head with City Councillor Scott Nelson putting together this motion that was debated for almost 2 hours last night, in which council decided not to impose a curfew, but they are moving ahead with exploring how to impose a state of emergency, a local state of emergency, so that they can somehow try to deal with people that are constantly causing problems in the community, and they're hoping that they can be rounded up by police. And as Mr. Nelson said, he wants to have a clean sweep of the community.
And how are people in the community responding to this proposal?
Well, there's mixed reaction, obviously, because the vote last night was 4-3 at the council meeting. So there are some city councillors who are worried that this is going to look bad. The optics for Williams Lake are don't come here because there's too much disorder and street disorder. So there's confusion there about how long the state of emergency can last. We've been told that it could start within 2 days and then it would last for about 10 days. But still, the optics look pretty bad if you're telling people that the situation is so bad they have to implement a state of emergency. So there are people that are not liking this. There are others that are worried about civil liberties being violated, and then there's those that are kind of saying enough is enough and we need to have this done because there's nothing else we can do. They're very disappointed with how the province and the federal government have dealt with bail reform and other things that they think could help.
Okay.
And she nailed it. Right? Like she just said it. This is all the things that this is why the Liberals were going to get decimated in the last election. And propaganda, lies, and with the help of Trump, the Liberals are still in power. This is why a lot of myself, I'm a libertarian, not necessarily a conservative, but and the Conservative Party is really, they're kind of a liberal party. They're a small L, small C liberal party. We don't have a liberal party anymore. The NDP are left of liberal. The New Liberals, ever since 13 years ago, they're a full socialist. Like I said, they're a halfway fascist party. They live off of fear, hate, and division and chaos. And this is what they're doing. They don't care, and their media is helping them. And I'm just so glad Marcella Bernardo got out there and she said this, and that the media actually gave her the time. And now I'm not going to play the rest of the clip. You can watch it. I post everything down below. And then they kind of cover it over with some blah, 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 verbal whatever. But at least this got out, because this is the truth. This is what do you do? You can't not do it. It's federal law. You have to let them back out. You can't not safe supply. It's provincial law. Like, these are all policies put down by totally incompetent socialist leaders. Unbelievable. I really feel sorry. I've been there a couple times when I was younger. Beautiful place. From what I've heard in the last 5-6 years, just a complete crap hole. Gone right down the toilets. It's so sad. Canada is so gone. Now, on to the whole Saskatchewan Independence part. This happened in Saskatoon. I played a small clip on a previous episode. This is in its entirety. I'm not playing the whole thing. There's a part there where Nadine kind of comes in and she tells her whole story and everything. Again, I post all this on there. If you want, like and follow. She's doing great work. She's out there trying to get information to the people. She's an amazing person. She really is. So I urge you to like and follow her and subscribe. Now, this is part of the Freedom Calendar Net. I'm going to play this part here off, and then I'm going to show you, and I'll also put in the bottom, the links to the website that you can pre-sign, a kind of a guarantor that you will sign when a referendum when we do actually file for a referendum, that you will be signing it. A guarantor that you're going to sign it. Let's just have a listen to what he has to say.
Focused on pension, we weren't focused on national unity. But she set us on this path by actually saying that. So what happened at that point is that we got organized with Alberta Prosperity. Now, Alberta Prosperity, the name is exactly what we're talking about here. This whole conversation, whether you want to believe it or not, is about money. There's also a little bit of Canadian pride and all that kind of stuff going on, but please understand, I'm old enough to remember when Canada was a much better place.
Yeah.
Hear, hear.
We do not live in the same country that I grew up in. Just for example, when I left high school, kids in my class graduated from school and could afford to buy a house. It wasn't even an unusual thing. Like, it was something that happened quite frequently. Nobody went, oh my God, you can afford to buy a house. No, that wasn't the deal. The deal was, it was expected that when you went to work, you could earn enough money to buy yourself a home. That's not the case today. And I'm going to share something with you. The system is working exactly the way they want it to work. That is not an accident. So as long as you put your brain around that, everything becomes clear very quickly. People have to be the face of this movement. People say, who's the head of the Alberta Independence movement? Well, I'm the head of the APP, but I'm not running up there and putting my face on it. Do you know why? Because I want the people to understand that they're the face of it. Because I don't want to be the face of it. Because if you're not the face of it, it won't happen. So I'll explain to you all about the stuff that Nadine talked about with CA boards and all the rest of that kind of stuff. And I'm going to share some big wins with you so you understand how really true that is and how that works. All right, so that's me. I'm the head of the UCPCA in Bonnyville. This all happened, so it started, I had a lady come into my store, I own a sporting goods store, and she said to me, Mitch, I'd like to talk to you.
Okay, I'm gonna fast forward it here just a little bit.
3.5 years ago. Just understand this. From my perspective, as somebody that's lived here my whole life that would never believe that we actually had a prime minister or a leader that could say that we had no core identity and consequently we're a post-national state. A post-national state is a state with basically no borders, uncontrolled immigration. And does he mean that? Does he mean that? Has he been living that out? Has he been showing us that he has no respect for who we are? And Nadine said she's got these identifying factors of what Saskatchewan people are. And I'm going to tell you something. The highest GDP per person in Canada is Alberta, and the next is Saskatchewan. So why? I spent 80 town halls doing Alberta pension, so I understand pension very clear. By the way, you will get your pension. It's the same for anywhere you live in Canada. You will keep your passport and you will get your pension, and I'm going to tell you why. Because you can be a Canadian citizen, you can be an American citizen, you can be a British citizen, you can have all those passports. Carney has about 8 of them. So you just understand that it's good for him, it's good for you. Yeah. So you can become a citizen of Saskatchewan and a citizen of Canada, and you can still retain your citizenship. Canada does not take citizenship away from its people. So just understand that. Step 1. You will remain a Canadian citizen. All right, here's where the problem starts. Clifford Sifton said this: we desire, every Canadian desires, that the great trade of the prairies, that means you, shall go to enrich our people in the East, to build up factories and workshops of Eastern Canada and contribute in every way to its prosperity. That is still the case today. That's 1905. I'm just going to, 1904, sorry. I'm just going to tell you what. My grandparents came here in the early 1900s, and they broke the land by hand. They left everything behind. They moved here for a brighter future. So parallel that to today. I really believe that you're as well off right now as you will ever be. It's going to go downhill from here. And if you don't believe it, just pay attention to the policies that they're putting forward. We're policy locked. These people are going to hurt us, and they're telling us that they're going to hurt us. That's the whole problem. We have to believe them. So somebody called me a traitor for not for talking about this. Well, 6 weeks ago, I didn't even think about leaving Canada. But now I see that there is absolutely no way. 90% of the Senate is Liberal, most of the judges, and there's absolutely, in my mind, no way out. You remember this? I do, very clearly. Screw the West, we'll take the rest. And I remember them saying it, and I couldn't believe it at the time. So here's the thing. Marc Lalonde admitted at that time that it was designed to stop Alberta from becoming an economic power. And guess when transfer payments started? Right there. So what was the point of the transfer payments? To weaken the West and strengthen the East, right? Just understand that. It's a very simple equation. All right, here we go. All right, that's Alberta's net contribution. That hasn't got as much to do with you guys in the last 15 years, so I'll just skip by that. There's equalization payments. You see how much Saskatchewan is getting? Right there, that's 25, 26. Pay attention to Quebec at 13.6 billion. Now, Quebec's not a have-not province, right? We're not going to pretend that Quebec's a have-not province. Here's the difference. We work harder than them, so we have more money. But we have more money because we work harder than them. I'm going to say that again. We work harder than them. And because we work harder doesn't mean that they're entitled to our money. That doesn't make any sense. That's not the Canadian way. That's not the way that we do things in this country. If you work hard, you get rewarded for that. And if you think that's a mistake, there's the year before. How much different is it? That is exactly the same way it is every year. 0 for Alberta, 0 for Saskatchewan, 13.3 billion for Quebec. So just understand Quebec has $26 billion in revenue come to them in a 13-month period. So what's the budget of the province of Alberta? $75 billion, and we're $100 billion in debt. But yet, we're paying these guys $13.3 billion a year. Canada pension. Okay, let's go into pension. I'll explain to you how pension works. And I kind of did anyway. Here's the thing. There's a portability clause in your pension. You can live in Costa Rica, you can live in Panama, you can live in the United States, you can live anywhere you get your pension. That includes Alberta and Saskatchewan after the referendum. Okay? That's the way it works. Every pension in the world has a portability clause. Every single one. Now, in Alberta's case, here's what's happened. Alberta pays $9 billion a year to CPP. They collect $6 every year. They have a $3 billion annual overage. Now, back in the day, Ontario decided that they didn't want to be the guys carrying the load for the rest of the country, so they wanted to know, and they put it in the Act, that if they paid more, it would go in a fund for them that they could call back any time they want, okay, with interest. Okay? Alberta's share of that, based on that formula, today, is about $360 billion. However, is there anybody in the room that believes that that pension fund may not be there? Because we don't know, they never audit it. We don't even know where it's invested. It could be all underwater, for all we know. And I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying that it could be. And I saw live my premier say, bringing this pension plan back to Alberta is a no-brainer. That was until the CPC started talking to them. The Conservative Party of Canada said, and then she said, well, we don't want to hurt Pierre Poilievre's chances of being elected by bringing that back. Now, that $360 billion is an asset in the Government of Canada's books. However, that's not correct. That should be an asset in the province of Alberta's books, correct? Because it's our money. But they've missed 4 deadlines to tell us how much of that number they're going to give us. And the smallest number I've ever heard is $190 billion. All right, so just so you guys are clear, we're going to go over the mess that we've had happen to us in the last 10 years. Oil continues to be in high demand. The demand for oil is going up every year. Alberta's lost, here we go, we'll go here, $500 billion, $500 billion. Just understand how much money $500 billion is. Not only is $500 billion a lot of money, but I'm going to tell you what else it is. I've run a business both ways, with money and without money, and I'm going to tell you it's way better to run it with money. And the reason for that is because you can expand, you can grow, you can hire more people, you can take chances, you can do all manner of stuff. They're not interested in that for us. They're actually working very hard to shrink our economy. That's why they've got production caps, carbon tax, and federal red tape. They also don't believe that we should sell our natural gas to Germany, Japan, and all those countries, even though they come begging for it. They come to Alberta begging for us to sell them natural gas. They burn off natural gas. Saskatchewan's in the same position. It's cost us $1.3 or $1.4 trillion is what that's going to cost us. But what does that really do? That hurts our kids because they won't have the opportunity to get those high-paying jobs. Their sovereignty gets affected. Their ability to earn gets affected. And what happens if they can't earn money? Then they haven't got enough leeway to have a family or a bigger family. That's all part of it. That's all part of the equation. What do I hear from kids? I had 5 of them. I raised 5 kids. I talk to them all the time. They said, well, you know, I have kids, but I'm not sure I can afford that. I've got a daughter who's a lawyer in downtown Calgary. She's 29 years old. She just moved into her own apartment now, just recently, within the last couple of weeks, and she's earning good money. The fact that the federal government is not only trying to shut our industry down, which is what they're doing, I'll get to the rest of that later, They want to put a cap on it. So what does a production cap do? The Premier said it's going to cut production in half. What does that mean for you and me? That means that our kids won't have jobs. That means it's going to cut our economy in half. So the government is not only trying to stop it, they're trying to kill it. And it gets worse. Here's the harms. Blocking pipelines, tanker ban, blocks oil and gas investment, carbon tax. Carbon tax Saskatchewan did a great thing on that. C-293. Is anybody a farmer in the room? Okay, so understand this. They said at the AGM, our agriculture minister said, the federal government does not know what they're doing. They can't put this in. They don't know what they're doing. We're going to put the Sovereignty Act on them if they do this. So this is what they're doing. They're passing a bill that is going to say that they will be able to, in the case of an emergency, which is whatever they choose that emergency to be, they will be able to come to your farm and seize your land and your herd. Now I'm going to ask you a question. Why would they do that? In my mind, that's unimaginable, that they actually think that they could do this. It's pretty depressing, isn't it? Like, I mean, really, it's really depressing. And never in my lifetime would I have thought that the federal government would be attacking our biggest industries and our ability to create wealth, because that's what they're doing. And they understand that they're doing it. And this is why. Because it's all about green. It's all about CO2. Now, I'm a biology major at the U of A. I understand the carbon cycle. CO2 is a gas of life. There's no question about it. Without CO2, nothing works. We exhale CO2 right now. So, the carbon taxes cost Canadians billions of dollars over 5 years, hurting the economy while reducing CO2 emissions by 11.9 gigatons. China emits 11.9 gigatons of CO2 every day and a half. So what are we doing? We're shutting our whole economy down, and they're importing our coal, and they're burning all that every day and a half. Taxing people into poverty is not going to change the weather, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely not. Now here's one of my best slides. Not only are they killing industry, not only are they going to cap it, they're going to tax the hell out of you.
Now, this is an incredibly long
now, let's go through the list.
seminar. It's
carbon
2
tax,
hours
personal
and 15
income tax,
minutes
corporate
in
income
total.
tax,
I
goods and
urge you,
services tax,
if you're interested,
excise tax, fuel
to listen
excise
to him.
tax,
He
alcohol
talks about how he got into it, kind of his early days, and then, like he said, he's only really been involved in with a few months. Then he jumped right in because he realized that even if the Conservatives would have won, it wouldn't have changed anything. They might have given us a few little bonuses, but you still have to appease the East. No matter no matter what we do, we have no say. We have no say. We get crumbs and pittance. Anyways, watch it in its entirety. It's really good. And Nadine's awesome as well, by the way. She's awesome. And her story, again, I've known her since the whole Wuhan thing. It's where she kind of started this whole networking thing out. And, yeah, very, very good group to follow. Now, this is the petition. Like I said, I will post everything in the description, so you'll be able to, and I urge you, please, sign this. I've signed it. You need to sign it. If you want secession, you need to put your name down. You need to show that you will be there when the time matters, when it really counts. Now, for you around Saskatchewan, I'll post this on there as well. This is their events page. Excuse me. So Kindersley is on June 3rd. Moose Jaw is June 10th. In Leader is on June 18th. Shaunavon is June 25th. Estevan is June 29th. And North Battleford is June 16th. And there's going to be a lot more coming up. And they have been having issues because certain organizations and groups are trying to shut them down, especially anything that's related to the federal government in any way. For some reason, all of a sudden, oh no, sorry, we can't have you in. So they're trying to find, and she even in one of her posts says, like, you know, if you got a barn, if you've got a, like, wherever, if we get canceled, put your names forward, get a hold of her where you're from, and if that way, if anything does come push to shove, they don't have to cancel the actual date, they can just move it to somewhere else where it's more, well, Canadian. Now, moving on, the protests in Toronto. This was glad the news actually picked it up finally, but only because it showed police doing something. Other than that, they don't show the Canada flags burning, and then, you know, they'll say, oh well, that wasn't actually a Hamas protest, that was you know, a climate change, or that was anti-NATO. All lies, all lies. Let's take a listen to their version.
Ottawa police and anti-war protesters outside CanSec, the annual defense and security trade show. More than a dozen
anti-war protesters, I like that.
Dozen protesters were arrested and at least one now facing charges. The demonstration happened on Uplands Drive outside the EY Centre, where CanSec is taking place today and tomorrow. CTV's Austin Lee is following this story and joins us now with the latest. Austin.
Oh, Patricia, it's not uncommon for demonstrators to protest the annual Defense Industry Convention. With this year's event coming amid Israel's latest military offensive in Gaza, tensions were high, leading to a total of 13 arrests. On day one of CanSec, the annual military and defense industry conference in the nation's capital, loud protesters critical of Canada's relationship with Israel were impossible to ignore.
We have a vision of security for Canada that is not based on dropping bombs around the world, that is not based on partnering with Israel and its attacks on Palestine. We're demanding a foreign policy from Canada that, yes, is separate from the U.S., but is also separate from U.S. war making and from its allies.
The protest shutting down a stretch of Uplands Drive Wednesday morning, leading to the arrest of 12 people.
Offenses ranging from mischief to assault police. These arrests had taken place after numerous hours of negotiations through our police liaison team.
Police say one man attending the trade show was also assaulted by a group of protesters. He was treated by paramedics at the scene and then released.
Right now, we're looking for any witnesses that may have any evidence with respect to the assault that occurred on the near the intersection of Uplands and Bredner, where this male attendee was attacked.
Once the dust had settled on Uplands Drive, protesters gathered outside the police station on Elgin Street, where police say one more person was arrested for mischief. A small group of protesters is still in front of the Elgin Street police station this hour. So far, only one protester has been charged for allegedly assaulting police and disguise with intent. She is still in custody and will appear in court tomorrow. It's unclear if anyone else will face charges. Patricia.
CTV's
Now,
Austin
I'm not
Lee.
sure, but Kevin Wong had posted there on X that there was somebody that is a representative of one of the universities, and from the description it sounded like those were the exact same charges. Now, I don't know for sure. Like I said, I didn't have the time to fact check it, but it does seem like that's the one, the nastiest one of them all, works for a university, which you shouldn't be surprised because our universities are churning out little socialists. We've got to purge all of that political ideologue out of our universities because it is a major destructive factor in where we're headed. I mean, these people are now voting, and it shows because the Liberals are still in power. Now, moving on, let's do an update on the Ostrich farm. This is gone. This is huge. What started off as just a small, kind of a test, and there was a fear of them losing them. All of a sudden, Then the government's like, no, we're just going to cull them all. And then that's it. The uproar started. And mainstream is just starting to pick it up. And the only reason they're picking it up is because people within the Trump administration are speaking up. Dr. Oz said he would take all of the 400 down and give them sanctuary on his own farm. Kennedy has come forward, sent a letter in to the government, and has talked to them personally about it, and is completely against any and all of this because he's saying they're right. And now you got to remember this they turn this flock into a scientific kind of study. They did have the avian flu go through. They lost some, but the rest of the herd came out survivors and now have immunity. This could very well signal a cure to the avian flu. But oh no, government doesn't want that, especially here in Canada, because they are so in bed with the pharmaceutical companies. And we're going to dabble onto that nearing the end of this little bit. Let's just hear it right from the owner first, and then we'll take off from there.
Secretary Kennedy letter?
Oh no, I've heard it on the news.
I think
that happened just after our last visit.
Yeah, that was pretty. That, and then Dr. Oz,
yes,
and then John Catsimatidis has been talking to the Canadian government on an ongoing basis, and we have engaging all the MPs now that everybody's taken their seats and trying to see, you know, how in the beginning this was all about trading partner policies. I don't know if you've educated yourself with the right.
Oh, what they've told me all about.
Yeah, so the trading partner policies. Yeah. Then we have Secretary Kennedy offering that olive branch of collaboration together, two countries, based on trading partner policies, and to preserve research that can benefit animal and human health. And then that's been shut down by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency with complete this is arrogance. And
have they
in
reached
my
out
mind.
to you guys, like personally?
No.
That's kind of surprising. Yeah. No, I mean Kennedy or Oz.
Oh yeah. We've talked to. I had a morning call with
Okay,
Dr.
sorry, I
Oz,
should've
and
said
we had a talk with John Catsimatidis and him. So it's been. I said 5 months ago I would never guess that this would be our life. That's the new normal every morning. You're like, oh, who's gonna call today? But we do know that it's sad to see that we're getting way more U.S. traction and anger too over this. Like they're erupting with it right now, especially with being dismissed by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency as the Secretary Kennedy has been, because just saying basically that didn't matter. So now they've switched gears, saying that it's not about the trading partner policies anymore. Now it's about Canadians' public health and safety, and about our food security. But the stamping out policy well proceeds. It's used on a global scale. So it's food security everywhere, right? So
Katie, I've said it before. I'm amazed with the job that you've done to bring attention to the farm. You've done a really good job. For your mom, and I know the love you guys have, your tight family. So
yeah, we are. We are all about love, unity. We love hard and we fight hard. That's what I always say about our family. We're a family that loves hard and fights hard. And we fight and stand up for the things that we believe in, and all of us that stand here know that this is wrong. But it's
and I see it in poor Dave there.
Yeah.
It's wearing him down.
Oh, every been 5 months.
I stepped inside, so I can't go beyond this point. I gotta go back inside.
I see you guys put your yellow tape up because you have so many visitors that might not know that.
We do.
There be a precaution for rules. We don't want any fines. It's not that we're worried about the birds, but we just don't need any more fines for CFIA for needless.
Do you have an MP that's taking this cause up?
Yes, Scott Anderson.
Oh, that's great.
Scott Anderson is taking this very seriously, and he's been approaching CFIA. I heard that he has he wants to talk here today, I believe. So yes, the last couple of days have been pretty busy for him, just taking seat. But Jasmine, his assistant, and the lady who works with him. So we have had obviously still Jordan Keeley, David Williams, Tara Armstrong, all the MLAs. We're just pushing forward, and we're trying to do this proper, right? We're trying to use the policies or the politics to help the policy. and the policy needs to change, and that's what we said. There's no amount of money that is enough to stop this fight. This is about creating the change that's necessary, and it's the rights of Canadians. And then you think too, it should, it shouldn't be criminal to test your own animal. That should be your right.
Agreed, 100%. Now, moving on. This was the questions shot to McDonald.
As you know, there's a herd of ostriches in BC that are facing termination due to the avian flu, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is asking for them not to be terminated, and I believe the BC Premier is asking for some flexibility on this file. What can you tell us, please, about this?
Well, I think we're in a process that with CFIA, and it's a due process, and we're taking all the facts into consideration, and we'll move forward on the best possible solution for everybody involved. And I certainly, obviously feel sorry for the farmers and that, but we also have the economic side to this. We have to protect other industries and sectors as well.
Have you been in contact with your U.S. counterpart on this at all?
No.
Do you have any concerns that the American administration is weighing in on the...
Well, I think, and I think if we follow Twitter or that type of thing with any major decisions that we're making here in Canada, I'm not sure that that's the appropriate course of action. So I think it's important to be relevant, and if those discussions are imminent, it would be better through conservation.
Which is quite funny considering every Canadian politician, the first place they post is on X, formerly known as Twitter. Some of the greatest deals through trade, you name it, is all happened on X, formerly known as Twitter. This guy is full of it. You can tell by the evil little smirk on his face. Now, it says, and I'll read off what Ezra has put down. Agriculture Minister Heath McDonald is asked about U.S. officials like RFK Jr. and Dr. Oz weighing in on the 400 ostriches set to be culled in BC. McDonald says the process is in place for the cull order, which you just heard. But it may not mean all of the birds will be end-of-lifed. We will see. Check out how he exits.
Sir, just for clarity, they're all going to be killed?
Yeah.
The process is in place, not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Right. And while all of this is going down, this happens. U.S. cancels more than $700 million in funding for the Moderna bird flu vaccine. Just days after the U.S. Health Secretary RFK Jr. and Medicare Chief Dr. Oz urged Canada to stop culling the 400 healthy ostriches involved in non-mRNA antibody research to fight the avian flu, the U.S. has officially defunded Moderna's $700 million contract to develop an mRNA vaccine for the same purpose. Trump's team has been considering the move for months, but could Canada's attempt to silence a more natural alternative have been the final nail in Big Pharma's coffin? I believe it has. I believe it is. And again, a lot of things, like I already screwed up and I said the V word, I got to watch what I say because I get the platform. And this is why I really urge you guys, please like, share, and subscribe. Got to get the word out. You got to fight these algorithms. They're so hard on my channel. And like I said, that's why I started this channel, was to get the truth out. So I ended up starting a membership. I am going to have to start doing membership only videos. That way I can be more open, but even then, through discussions with YouTube and going over the policies, that these new policies that go with this new membership thing, there are certain things I am going to still have to watch, but I will be able to have a lot more of a voice than what I have on this free version. And don't worry, I will still always have the free version out there. This is my main priority. I want to get truth out. Sorry, just the facts. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you have, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. If you are, punch the notification bell. so you don't miss any future episodes. Check out my merch. I've got a lot more designs coming out. Until next time, you've been watching Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, Alias Tagai. Stay informed.